trauma, right? Some men have had traumatizing experiences in their childhoods that cause developmental trauma. This stunts a boy's growth. It can even cause them to develop adaptive strategies that prevent the behaviors and choices and actions associated with adulthood. Now, perhaps the most common trauma that contributes to this is enmeshment trauma, such as emotional incest. This is when a parent flips the parent-child role and relies on the child to meet their emotional and relational needs. And guess what? If you look at society during the time that many of these Peter Pan men were children, what you find is that society was drastically shifting to a dual income household. Also, there was a huge increase in divorce rates. Many boys were growing up in homes where the polarity was flipped between their moms and dads, if not only growing up with their mothers. Well, guess what? This is a recipe for disaster because trying to work and be a mother and being in a polarity flipped relationship puts so much stress on women. So these moms were burnt out and they had a role overload as they increasingly found themselves having to be it all and do it all. Due to lack of time and also exhaustion, these women didn't really put energy into building an adult support network for themselves. So they were living in a void of support. Now, due to constantly having to balance work life and home life, and also many of them suddenly being in polarity flip dynamics or single parenting situations, they were not getting their needs met by their partners. So, many of these moms unconsciously leaned heavily on their sons for emotional support and companionship to cope with their own loneliness, their own emotional neglect, their own conflicts with their husbands, their own stress. Okay, well, in this dynamic, the child is prevented from growing up in any way that would hinder the parent's need for the child. And yet at the same time, the child is under the pressure to take on a grown-up role that they are not ready for at all. The child adopts an adult role prematurely, therefore missing the need to just be a kid and develop into being an adult later. The parent's needs take precedence over the child's needs. The child's feelings, thoughts, and preferences and needs are kind of bulldozed over, so the child does not develop a healthy sense of self. Instead, they learn that their value is about pleasing the parent, which hinders their capacity to develop an identity, to build self-esteem, and to make decisions for themselves. The overwhelming, not age-appropriate task of managing the parent's needs and emotional well-being builds an association between responsibility, especially in relationships, and this overwhelming pressure and sensation of engulfment. So they often gravitate towards getting to have the childhood they missed, but as an adult. This also means, obviously, not taking on responsibilities, not committing in relationships, not knowing how to regulate their emotions, having no solid understanding of themselves. And because the emphasis was on them existing to meet the parent's needs rather than developing the skills to become an autonomous adult, the parent effectively prevented them, without intending to, from finding their wings, so to speak. So adult life feels way over their head. 5. With the absence of this template for how a boy becomes a man within society, boys and young men are lost and are looking out there for male role models. And so many of the male role models are horribly poor ones. Most of them TV characters and pop culture or social media icons, many of which espouse and model the very traits that keep a man in Peter Pan mode. I want you to think about dating coaches that teach men the art of the pick up and get laid game. Think tech moguls who teach men that rules and consequences don't apply to them if they have enough money and power. Think the get-rich-quick gurus who teach the prioritization of superficial gains and overnight success with no effort in. Think sports icons and misogynistic influencers that promote the emulation of a toxic male persona, complete with narcissistic self-focus, control of and domination over women, emotional manipulation, brand name obsession, the accumulation of power for power's sake, and absolute freedom with no limits whatsoever. Think television characters that portray father figures as either the frightening aggressor. Think Darth Vader, Tywin Lannister, Tony Soprano, Thanos. Or, to the other side, the incompetent, pathetic fool. Think Homer Simpson, Peter Griffin, Phil Dunphy, Stu Pickles. The rise of technological existence has created a loss of in-person community life. This has isolated men deeply. It has made it harder for men to gain role models, receive guidance from mentors, and even peers. Harder for them to engage in the active, not passive things that cause a boy to develop into a man. And harder for them to form deep and supportive connections. 6. Women have progressively gone more and more and more into the masculine polarity and also into the eternal mother role with men. This includes with their own sons. They've developed more and more self-protective independence, sending men the message, we don't need you and therefore don't value you. And in their relationship with men, more and more women have taken the power position in that relationship. They've taken on the leadership role, they've taken on all the responsibilities, all the decision-making, all the planning. They're attached to control as a method of self-preservation, and in doing this have prevented men from having to step up. Women are currently acting as a preventative force to men becoming empowered, developing confidence, building self-trust, being self-reliant and reliable, being responsible, and from needing to master every element of masculine containment. Basically, women have inadvertently become an enabling force to the Peter Pan dynamic, the very thing that hurts them. So there it is, you guys. Now you have a thorough understanding of the major factors that have caused such a rise recently in the prevalence of Peter Pans. Have a good week.